I stood in that hospital room looking down at the man who had left me bleeding on a gas station floor 9 years ago, and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction as I handed him the papers that would strip away everything he had left. But before I tell you how I got my revenge, let me ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories like this, and drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Your support means everything. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Eleanor Catherine Vance, though I have always gone by Ellie. The irony of sharing my middle name with my mother was not lost on me, especially considering how much she grew to despise me. I was born on a cold February morning in Portland, Oregon, the second and decidedly unwanted child of Thomas and Catherine Vance. My earliest memory is of my 4th birthday party. It was not actually my party. It was Daniel's 8th birthday celebration, and mine just happened to fall 3 days later, so my parents decided to combine them. I remember standing in the corner of our large backyard, watching Daniel open present after present, while a crowd of his friends cheered. When it came time for cake, there was only one cake, and it had Daniel's name on it in bright blue frosting. My name was nowhere to be found. I asked my mother why there was no cake for me, and she sighed in that way. She always did when I asked for anything. Ellie, do not be difficult. We are celebrating together. You can share Daniel's cake. But I wanted my own cake, I said quietly. My father, who was manning the grill nearby, turned and gave me a look that made my stomach drop. You always want something, do not you, always needing attention. Your brother is the birthday boy today. Stop being selfish. I was 4 years old, and that was the first time I remember feeling like I did not matter. The years that followed only confirmed that feeling. Daniel played soccer, so every Saturday and Sunday was consumed by his games. He played piano, so we had to sit through his recitals. He got lead roles in school plays, so we attended every performance. When I asked to join the art club in elementary school, my mother said we could not afford the supply fees, even though we lived in a house worth over $500,000 and my father drove a Mercedes. I learned to stop asking for things. I learned to make myself small, to fade into the background, to never cause problems. I thought that if I was perfect, if I was easy, if I never complained, maybe they would finally see me. Maybe they would finally love me the way they loved Daniel. In middle school, I started getting straight A's. I thought surely this would make them proud. I brought home my report card with all perfect marks, and my mother glanced at it while cooking dinner. That is nice, dear, she said absently. Daniel made varsity soccer as a freshman. Can you believe it? A freshman on varsity. I put my report card back in my backpack and never showed it to them again. High school was more of the same, except now the comparison was not just academic or athletic. Daniel had started dating a girl named Amber, whose father owned a chain of car dealerships. Catherine was thrilled. She threw dinner parties to get to know Amber's family, always making sure to mention Daniel's achievements, his bright future, his prospects. When I was 15, a boy named Kevin from my chemistry class asked me to homecoming. I was so excited. It was the first time anyone had shown interest in me, the first time I felt like I might be worth something to someone. I asked my mother if we could go dress shopping. She was in the middle of planning some charity gala she was chairing. Ellie, I do not have time for this. Just wear something from your closet. But Mom, it is homecoming. Everyone gets a new dress. She slammed her planner shut and looked at me with barely concealed irritation. Not everyone has parents who indulge every whim. You have plenty of clothes. Make do with what you have. I wore a dress I had worn to a cousin's wedding 2 years prior. It was too short now, and the style was outdated. Kevin took one look at me when he picked me up, and I could see the disappointment in his eyes. We barely spoke at the dance. He never asked me out again. I cried myself to sleep that night, and I remember thinking that maybe there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Maybe I was just not meant to be loved. When I turned 16, my parents forgot my birthday entirely. They were too busy planning Daniel's college visits. He was a senior being recruited by several universities for soccer. My birthday fell on a Thursday, and I came home from school hoping maybe they had planned something small, just a cake or even a card. The house was empty except for a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to tour Stanford with Daniel. Leftovers in the fridge. Mom. I sat at the kitchen table alone and ate cold pasta, then went to my room and cried until I had no tears left. I thought about running away, but where would I go? I had no one. The next day at school, my art teacher, Mrs. Henderson, noticed I seemed off. She asked if I was okay, and something about her genuine concern broke through my defenses. I told her it had been my birthday yesterday, and that my family forgot. She looked at me with such sadness in her eyes. Oh, Ellie. I am so sorry. That must have hurt so much. It was the first time an adult had acknowledged my pain, had validated that what I was experiencing was not normal, was not okay. She gave me a cupcake from her lunch and sat with me during my free period just talking. She told me that I mattered, that I had talent, that I deserved better. For a brief moment I felt seen, but that feeling did not last long. A few months later, my parents found out I had been spending extra time after school in the art room working on a portfolio for a scholarship program Mrs. Henderson had told me about. When I mentioned possibly applying to art schools, my father laughed. Art school, Ellie, be realistic. You need to think about practical careers. Maybe community college, something with a clear job path. But I am good at art, I protested weakly. Mrs. Henderson says I have real talent, Catherine scoffed. Teachers say that to everyone, sweetheart. They have to be encouraging. It is their job. But your father and I are not going to waste money on something as frivolous as art school. You will stay local, get a practical degree, and figure out how to support yourself. What about Daniel? I asked, my voice shaking. You are paying for Stanford. That costs 10 times more than any art school. The look my father gave me was withering. Daniel has earned his opportunities through hard work and talent. He has a future in sports management or business. You have to understand, Ellie, not everyone is meant for greatness. Some people are just meant to be ordinary. Those words echoed in my head for months. Not everyone is meant for greatness. Some people are just meant to be ordinary. I stopped working on my portfolio. I stopped going to art club. I stopped dreaming about anything beyond just surviving each day. Senior year was supposed to be exciting, but for me it was just another year of being invisible. Daniel was at Stanford thriving, sending home photos of his new life, his new friends, his adventures. My parents would show these photos to everyone who came to the house, beaming with pride. Meanwhile, I was filling out applications to local community colleges, knowing that my parents would not help me financially and that I would need to work to pay for even the cheapest option. Then, in October of my senior year, I met Marcus at a party I had been reluctantly dragged to by one of the few friends I had. Marcus was 22, worked at a local mechanic shop, and he paid attention to me in a way no one ever had. He complimented me, asked about my interests, listened when I talked. He made me feel like I mattered. I fell for him hard and fast. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I ignored. The way he would get jealous when I talked to other guys. The way he would criticize my clothes or my hair, always framed as trying to help me look better. The way he isolated me from my few friends, convincing me they did not really care about me the way he did. But at 17, desperate for any kind of love or validation, I convinced myself this was what love felt like. This was someone choosing me, wanting me. We started sleeping together in November. I was stupid and naive about protection. By January, I realized I had missed my period. Then another. By the time I took a pregnancy test in late February, I was already nearly 3 months along. I told Marcus first. We were in his apartment, a dingy one-bedroom above a convenience store. He was watching TV when I sat down next to him, my hands shaking. Marcus, I need to tell you something. I am pregnant. He did not even turn away from the TV at first. What? I am pregnant. Almost 3 months. That got his attention. He whipped his head around to look at me, his face contorting with anger. What the hell, Ellie? How did you let this happen? I let this happen, I stammered. We both were there. This is not just my fault. He stood up, pacing the small living room. No. I am not ready for this. I do not want kids. You need to take care of this. Take care of this, I asked, my voice small. Yeah, get rid of it. I will give you money for the clinic. Something inside me recoiled at that suggestion. Not because I judged anyone who made that choice, but because in that moment this tiny cluster of cells inside me was the only thing in the world that was truly mine. The only thing that needed me. I cannot do that, I whispered. I want to keep it. Marcus's face turned red. Then you are on your own. I am not doing this. I am not throwing my life away because you could not take a damn pill. He grabbed his keys and left. I sat in his empty apartment for 2 hours before I finally walked home in the dark, my whole world crumbling around me. I knew I had to tell my parents. I practiced the words 100 times in my head, trying to find the right way to say it. But there was no right way. It was a Friday evening in March. My father was in his study going over some reports. My mother was in the living room planning the menu for some dinner party they were hosting. I stood in the doorway between the 2 rooms, my stomach in knots. Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you about something important. My mother did not even look up from her notebook. Can it wait, Ellie? I am in the middle of something. No, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. It cannot wait. My father came out of his study, his reading glasses perched on his nose, looking annoyed at the interruption. What is it? I took a deep breath. I am pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's pen stopped moving across the page. My father just stared at me like I had spoken a foreign language. Then all hell broke loose. Catherine's notebook hit the coffee table with a sharp crack that made me flinch. She stood up, her face contorted with fury. You are what? I am pregnant, I repeated, my voice barely a whisper now. About 3 months along, my father's face turned purple. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and got right in my face. You stupid, stupid girl. Do you have any idea what you have done? What this will do to our reputation? What people will say? Thomas, my mother said, her voice shaking with rage. How could she do this to us, after everything we have provided for her? After all the opportunities? I felt my own anger rising, then breaking through years of conditioning to stay quiet and small. Opportunities, what opportunities? You have never given me anything. You forgot my 16th birthday. You would not even buy me a homecoming dress. You told me I was not meant for greatness, just meant to be ordinary. My father grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. Do not you dare talk back to me. Do not you dare blame us for your mistakes. You got yourself into this mess and now you expect us to what support you pay for your bastard child. I yanked my arm away. I am not expecting anything from you. I just thought you should know. Catherine laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Oh, how noble. Well, let me tell you what is going to happen, Ellie. You are going to figure this out on your own. We are not going to have our family name dragged through the mud because you could not keep your legs closed. I felt like I had been slapped. Those words coming from my mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me and support me, cut deeper than anything else. Where is the father? My dad demanded. Some high school boy. Where is he in all this? He is 22, I said quietly, and he wants nothing to do with it. My father's eyes narrowed. 22. You have been sleeping with a grown man, Jesus Christ, Ellie. You are 17 years old. That is statutory rape in this state. He said he loved me, I whispered, tears streaming down my face now. Of course he did, Catherine spat. That is what men say to naive little girls. And you fell for it because you were desperate for attention. This is what happens when you go looking for love in all the wrong places. I felt like the room was spinning. I could not breathe. I need your help, I managed to say. I do not know how to do this alone. You should have thought about that before you spread your legs for some loser, my father said coldly. You made your choice. Now you live with it. I looked between my parents, searching for any hint of compassion, any shred of parental concern. There was none. Just disgust and anger. So that is it? I asked. You are just going to abandon me. You abandoned this family the moment you got pregnant, Catherine said. You have embarrassed us, humiliated us, and now you expect us to just welcome you and your mistake with open arms? Absolutely not. She walked to the hall closet and pulled out a duffel bag, throwing it at my feet. You have until tomorrow to pack your things and get out. I am not having a pregnant teenager living under our roof. What would people think? I stared at the bag, then at my parents. You are kicking me out. I am still in high school. I am still your daughter. You stopped being our daughter when you made the choice to ruin your life, my father said. Now get out of my sight. I picked up the duffel bag with shaking hands and went upstairs to my room. I called the only friend I had left, a girl named Jessica from my English class. Through tears, I explained what happened. She said I could stay with her family for a little while, at least until I figured things out. That night, I packed everything I owned into 2 bags. It was not much. My parents had never been generous with me. I left my room, which had been my sanctuary for 17 years, and walked down the stairs one last time. My mother was in the kitchen making herself tea, as if this was just a normal Friday evening. I stopped in the doorway. Mom, I tried one last time. Please. I am scared. I do not know what to do. She did not turn around. You will figure it out, Ellie. Or you will not. Either way, it is not my problem anymore. I left through the front door and never looked back. Jessica's family was kind to me, but I could tell I was a burden. They had 4 kids of their own in a small 3-bedroom house. I slept on the couch in their living room and tried to stay out of the way. Jessica's mom, Mrs. Lopez, was sympathetic but also overwhelmed. She helped me enroll in online classes so I could finish my senior year while dealing with the pregnancy. I got a job at a diner, working as many shifts as they would give me. Morning sickness made the early shifts torture, but I pushed through. I saved every penny I could, knowing I needed to find my own place before the baby came. Marcus blocked my number after I tried to reach out to tell him I was keeping the baby. I saw him once at a gas station and he literally turned around and walked the other way. So much for love. Daniel called me once about a month after I moved out. Word had gotten to him at Stanford. He asked if it was true that I was pregnant and living with some family I barely knew. When I confirmed it, he was quiet for a long moment. "Ellie, you really screwed up," he finally said. "Mom and Dad are right to be upset. You have made our whole family look bad." "I am your sister," I said, my voice breaking. "Do you not care about me at all?" "Of course I care," he said defensively. "But I also understand where Mom and Dad are coming from. Actions have consequences. You have to take responsibility." "I am taking responsibility," I said. "I am working full-time and finishing school and trying to figure out how to be a mother. What more do you want from me?" He sighed. "I do not know, Ellie. I just think you need to understand that you created this situation. You cannot expect everyone else to fix it for you." After that call, I did not hear from Daniel again for years. By June, I had graduated high school through the online program and saved enough money to move into a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. It was all I could afford. The building was old, the walls were paper thin, and I could hear every fight, every slamming door, every blaring TV from my neighbors. But it was mine. I was 7 months pregnant by then, working double shifts at the diner whenever I could. My feet swelled so badly I could barely get my shoes on. My back ached constantly. Some nights I would sit on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by the few baby items I had been able to afford from thrift stores, and I would cry until I had nothing left. I thought about my parents constantly. I thought about calling them, begging them one more time, to help me to at least acknowledge that I was their daughter, and I was terrified. But every time I picked up the phone, I remembered the way my mother looked at me with disgust, the way my father called my baby a bastard, and I put the phone down. Then came September 13th, the night that would change everything. I was 8 days past my due date, enormous and uncomfortable, and so ready to not be pregnant anymore. I had been having sporadic contractions all day, but they were inconsistent, so I thought it was just more false labor. I had already been to the hospital twice in the past week, only to be sent home and told it was not time yet. That evening, the contractions started getting stronger and closer together. I knew I should call an ambulance, but I also knew that would cost money I did not have. I had signed up for state Medicaid, but the ambulance ride was not covered, and I was terrified of adding more debt to the mountain I was already drowning in. So I made a stupid decision. I decided to drive myself to the hospital. It was only 15 minutes away. I could make it. I got about 5 minutes down the road before a contraction hit so hard I had to pull over. I was at a gas station, one of those small rundown places that looked like it was barely hanging on. The parking lot was empty, except for one other car. I sat in my driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, breathing through the pain. When it passed, I got out thinking maybe if I walked around a little I could manage to drive the rest of the way. That is when I saw them. My parents. Getting gas in their BMW. My heart stopped. I had not seen them in months. I had not spoken to them since the night they kicked me out. And here they were at the same gas station at the worst possible moment. For a second, I thought about getting back in my car and leaving. But another contraction hit, this one so intense I doubled over, grabbing the side of my car for support. "Mom," I called out before I could stop myself. The word came out as half gasp, half sob. Catherine turned and I saw the moment she recognized me. Her eyes went wide, then narrowed. She said something to my father, who was pumping gas. He looked over at me and his expression hardened. They both just stared at me for a long moment. I was standing there, one hand on my swollen belly, clearly in pain, clearly needing help, and they just stared. "Mom, please," I tried again. "I think I am in labor. I need help getting to the hospital." Catherine walked over to the passenger side of their car and got in. She rolled down the window just a crack, maybe 3 inches, just enough for her voice to carry across the parking lot. "You made your choice, Ellie. You chose that baby over your family. So deal with it yourself. We are not your parents anymore." "Dad," I turned to my father desperately. "Please. I am scared. I do not think I can drive. Please just take me to the hospital." Thomas finished pumping the gas, replaced the nozzle, and screwed the gas cap back on his BMW with deliberate slowness. Then he got in the driver's seat. He rolled down his window just long enough to say, "You wanted to be an adult. You wanted to make your own choices. Well, congratulations. You are on your own." Another contraction hit, the worst one yet. I felt wetness flood down my legs and realized with horror that my water had broken. I collapsed onto the concrete, the pain so overwhelming I could not even scream. Through my tears, I watched my father start the car. I watched my mother stare straight ahead, not even looking back at me. And I watched them drive away, their taillights disappearing into the night, leaving me lying in a puddle of amniotic fluid on a filthy gas station parking lot. I have never felt so alone in my entire life. I was certain I was going to die there or that my baby was. I could not move. The pain was too intense. I could barely breathe. All I could do was lie there and pray that anyone would find me. That is when I heard the footsteps. "Oh my God," a male voice said. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I looked up through my tears and saw a young guy, maybe 19 or 20, wearing a gas station uniform. His name tag said Jackson. His eyes were wide with panic, but he immediately dropped to his knees beside me. "I am in labor," I managed to gasp. "My water broke. I need help." Okay, he said, his voice shaking but determined. "I am calling 911 right now. Just hang on, okay, you are going to be fine." He pulled out his phone with one hand while pulling off his work jacket with the other. He carefully slid the jacket under my head, then held my hand as he talked to the dispatcher. "Yes, I am at the Shell station on Morrison Street. There is a woman in labor. Her water broke. She is on the ground. Please hurry." He stayed on the line, relaying information, never letting go of my hand. The contractions were coming faster now, each one more painful than the last. I was sobbing, partly from the physical pain and partly from the emotional devastation of what my parents had just done. "My parents left me," I gasped between contractions. "They saw me and they left me here." Jackson looked at me with such genuine shock and sympathy. "I am so sorry. That is horrible. But hey, look at me. You are not alone now. Okay, I am right here. I am not going anywhere." The ambulance arrived about 8 minutes later, though it felt like hours. The EMTs loaded me onto a stretcher, and Jackson asked if he could ride with me. "I do not have anyone else," I told them. "Please." They let him. He sat next to me in the ambulance, still holding my hand, talking to me to keep me calm. I did not even know this person, but he was showing me more compassion than my own family ever had. We got to the hospital and they rushed me into labor and delivery. The next 6 hours were the most painful, terrifying, exhausting hours of my life. The doctors said the baby was in distress. There was talk of an emergency C-section. I was too young, too unprepared, too alone, but through it all Jackson stayed. He stayed in the waiting room. He texted his manager to explain why he had left work. He bought me ice chips when I was finally allowed to have them. He was just there. At 2:47 in the morning on September 14th, Ethan Marcus Vance came into the world. 6 pounds 3 ounces. A full head of dark hair and the loudest cry I had ever heard. They placed him on my chest, and I looked down at this tiny, perfect human, and something inside me shifted. This was love. Real, unconditional, fierce love. The kind of love I had spent 19 years desperately seeking from my parents and never receiving. "You are going to be okay, little man," I whispered to him through my tears. "I am going to make sure you are okay." Jackson came in a little while later after they had cleaned me up and moved me to a recovery room. He peeked around the door nervously. "Is it okay if I come in?" "Of course," I said. "You saved our lives tonight." He came in and looked at Ethan with such a gentle smile. "He is perfect." "What is his name?" "Ethan," I said. "Ethan Marcus Vance." "That is a great name," Jackson said. Then after a moment of hesitation, he added, "Can I ask you something? What are you going to do now? Do you have somewhere to go? Someone to help you?" "I have an apartment," I said. "And I have Medicaid. I will figure it out." He looked concerned. "You should not have to do this alone. And I know we just met, and this is probably weird, but I want to help. I do not know why, but I feel like I am supposed to. Like I was supposed to be working tonight, supposed to be there when you needed someone." I felt tears well up again. "You do not owe me anything. You already did more than enough." "Maybe," he said. "But I would like to stay in touch. Make sure you and Ethan are okay. If that is all right with you." I did not understand why this stranger cared, why he would want to involve himself in my messy, complicated life. But I was not in a position to turn down help. "I would like that," I said quietly. And that was the beginning of the most important friendship of my life. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. During that time, I tried one more time to reach out to my parents. Against my better judgment, against every warning in my head telling me not to, I texted them a photo of Ethan. "This is your grandson," I wrote. "His name is Ethan. He is healthy and beautiful. I thought you would want to know." I waited for hours for a response. I told myself they would see him and realize what they were missing. I told myself that surely seeing their grandchild would soften them, would remind them that I was still their daughter. Thomas responded 8 hours later. One sentence. "You made your bed. Now lie in it. Do not contact us again." That was it. No acknowledgement of Ethan. No asking how I was doing after giving birth. Just a final rejection. cold and absolute. I deleted their numbers from my phone. I deleted every photo I had of them. I deleted every text message, every email, every shred of evidence that they had ever been part of my life. If they wanted to pretend I did not exist, then I would return the favor. But I also made a promise to myself that night, sitting in that hospital bed holding my sleeping son. I would not just survive this. I would rise above it. I would build a life so good, so successful, so full of love that they would someday realize what they threw away. And when that day came, when they came crawling back needing something from me, I would show them exactly the same mercy they had shown me. None. The first year with Ethan was brutal in ways I cannot fully describe. I had no idea what I was doing. Every decision felt impossibly hard. Should I breastfeed or use formula? How often should I change his diaper? What do I do when he cries for hours and nothing I try will soothe him? Was his breathing normal? Was he eating enough, growing enough? I had no mother to call, no family to turn to. Just me, a baby, and a mountain of fear that I was going to screw everything up. The studio apartment that had seemed adequate when it was just me now felt claustrophobically small. Ethan slept in a secondhand bassinet next to my bed, which was really just a mattress on the floor. I hung blankets over the windows to try to block out the noise from the street and from my neighbors. The walls were so thin I could hear everything: arguments, blaring televisions, other people's lives bleeding into ours. Money was the constant source of stress. I had to go back to work at the diner when Ethan was just 3 weeks old because I could not afford to take any more time off. I was still healing from childbirth, still exhausted from round-the-clock feedings, but I had no choice. I found a neighbor, an older woman named Mrs. Kim, who watched several kids in her apartment, and I paid her what I could to watch Ethan during my shifts. The first time I left him with her, I cried the entire walk to the diner. I felt like the worst mother in the world. What kind of mother leaves her 3-week-old baby? But what choice did I have? We needed money for rent, for diapers, for formula to supplement when my breast milk was not enough. I worked the breakfast and lunch shifts at the diner, which meant I was up at 4:30 in the morning to feed Ethan, get myself ready, and drop him off at Mrs. Kim's by 5:45 so I could start my shift at 6. I would work until 2, pick him up, come home exhausted, try to clean the apartment and do laundry and take care of Ethan, then collapse into bed around 9 only to do it all over again the next day. On weekends, I worked at a grocery store stocking shelves from 6 p.m. to midnight. Mrs. Kim agreed to watch Ethan for those shifts too, and I felt guilty every single time I handed him over. I was missing so much of his life, all those precious early moments, because I had to work constantly just to keep us afloat. Jackson checked in on me regularly. He would stop by after his shifts at the gas station, usually late at night, bringing takeout or groceries. He would hold Ethan so I could take a shower or fold laundry or just sit in silence for 10 minutes. He never asked for anything in return. He just showed up consistently, reliably, in a way no one else in my life ever had. One night, when Ethan was about 2 months old, I had a complete breakdown. It was 2 in the morning. Ethan had been crying for 3 hours straight. Nothing I did helped. He would not eat, would not sleep, just cried and cried. I was so exhausted I could barely stand. My body hurt. My head hurt. I felt like I was drowning. I finally put Ethan in his bassinet, safely strapped in, and I went into the bathroom and closed the door. I sat on the floor and I sobbed. I sobbed for everything I had lost. For the parents who should have loved me. For the childhood I never really had. For the future I had imagined that would never happen now. For how hard everything was, how endless and impossible it all felt. I heard my phone buzz. It was Jackson. "Hey, just checking in. How are you guys doing?" I could have lied. I could have said we were fine, but I was too tired to lie anymore. "I am not okay," I texted back. "I do not know if I can do this." My phone rang immediately. "Where are you right now?" he asked when I answered. "Home." Ethan would not stop crying. I just needed a minute away from him before I lost it completely. "I am coming over," he said. "Jackson, it is 2 in the morning. You do not have to do that." "I know I do not have to. I want to. I will be there in 15 minutes. He showed up in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy from sleep. He came in and went straight to Ethan, picking him up and holding him against his chest, bouncing gently. "When is the last time you slept more than 2 hours?" he asked me. "I do not know," I admitted. "A week, maybe more." "Okay," he said. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to go to bed. Actually sleep. I am going to stay here with Ethan. I took tomorrow off work, so I can stay all day if needed. You are going to sleep until your body wakes up naturally, and I do not want to see you until that happens." "Okay. I cannot ask you to do that," I said weakly. "You are not asking. I am offering. Ellie, you are going to burn out if you do not take care of yourself. And Ethan needs you healthy, so please just go to bed. I did not have the energy to argue. I went to my mattress on the floor and I was asleep within minutes. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the blankets over my windows. I checked my phone. It was 1 in the afternoon. I had slept for 11 hours straight. I panicked and rushed out to the main area of the studio. Jackson was sitting on the floor, Ethan on a blanket in front of him, both of them surrounded by toys. Ethan was cooing, happily reaching for a rattle. Jackson looked tired but was smiling. He has been amazing, Jackson said when he saw me. Fed him twice, changed him 4 times, even got him to nap for a couple hours. I think we bonded. I started crying again, but this time from gratitude. Why are you so good to us? Why do you care? Jackson looked thoughtful for a moment. You know, when I saw you at that gas station lying there alone and scared, I saw my mom. She had me when she was 17. My dad bailed. Her parents kicked her out. She did it all on her own and it nearly destroyed her. She struggled with depression my whole childhood. I always wished someone had been there for her, you know, someone who just showed up and helped without judgment. So maybe I am doing for you what I wish someone had done for her. That made me cry harder. Your mom sounds like an incredible woman. She was, he said quietly. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. I am so sorry, I whispered. Me too, he said. But I think she would have liked you, and she would have loved Ethan. From that day forward, Jackson became family. Not because of blood, but because he chose to be. He was there for every milestone, every challenge, every moment when I thought I could not go on. When Ethan was 6 months old, I was working a double shift at the diner because another waitress called in sick. It was December, cold and miserable outside. I was carrying a tray of food when my foot hit a wet spot on the floor. I went down hard, the tray crashing, plates shattering everywhere. I landed on my wrist and felt something snap. The pain was instant and excruciating. My manager called an ambulance despite my protests about the cost. At the hospital, they confirmed my wrist was broken. They put me in a cast and told me I could not work for at least 6 weeks. 6 weeks without income. 6 weeks when I was already barely making rent. I sat in that emergency room and felt my entire world collapsing again. How was I going to feed Ethan? How was I going to pay rent, Mrs. Kim? What was I going to do? Jackson met me at the hospital. When I told him what the doctor said, he did not hesitate. You and Ethan are moving in with me. No arguments. I have a 2-bedroom apartment. You can have the second room. You do not pay rent until you are back on your feet. I cannot accept that, I protested. That is too much. Ellie, what are you going to do? Starve, end up homeless with a baby, swallow your pride and let someone help you? He was right. I had no choice. So Ethan and I moved into Jackson's apartment, a modest but clean 2-bedroom place in a safer neighborhood. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The walls were not paper thin. There were no screaming matches in the hallway. Ethan had his own room, small but perfect for him. Jackson would not let me pay rent even after my wrist healed and I went back to work. He said to save my money that I would need it more than he did. We fell into a comfortable routine. We took turns cooking dinner. We watched movies together after Ethan went to sleep. We became a little family, unconventional but real. People assumed we were together romantically, but it was never like that. Jackson was gay, something he told me one night over beers after Ethan was asleep. He said he appreciated that I never assumed, never pushed, just accepted him exactly as he was. That was what real family did, he said. They did not try to change you. They just loved you. Living with Jackson gave me the stability I needed to start thinking beyond just survival. I started taking online courses at night, working toward an associate degree in business administration. I figured if I was going to work myself to death, I might as well work towards something better. Ethan grew and thrived. He was a happy baby, always smiling, always curious. When he was 9 months old, he said his first word. It was not mama or data. It was Jax. Jackson cried. So did I. This weird little family we had built was real and beautiful and everything I had never known I needed. Then one evening in March, everything started to change. I was working a late shift at the diner, my last hour before closing. It was slow, just a few customers lingering over coffee. I was wiping down tables when the bell above the door chimed. I looked up and saw a woman walk in, maybe mid-20s, wearing an expensive-looking coat and carrying a leather briefcase. She sat at the counter and I went over with a menu. What can I get for you? Just coffee, please, she said with a warm smile. Black. I poured her coffee and started to walk away, but she stopped me. Excuse me, do you work here full-time? I do, I said. Here and a few other places. She studied me for a moment. You look exhausted, if you do not mind me saying. I do not mind. I am exhausted, I admitted with a tired laugh. I am Sophia Chen, she said, extending her hand. I am in the process of starting a tech consulting firm. We are still small but growing. I have been coming to this diner for the past few weeks, always late at night when I am working, and I have noticed you. You are efficient, professional, thorough. You actually care about doing a good job, which is rarer than it should be. I shook her hand, confused about where this was going. Thank you. I need an assistant, she continued. Someone organized, hardworking, willing to learn. The hours would be more regular than this 9 to 5 generally. The pay would start at $40,000 a year with benefits after 90 days. I know that is not a fortune, but it is probably more than you are making now across multiple jobs. I stared at her. Are you seriously offering me a job right now? I am, she said. I know this is unconventional, but I believe in trusting my instincts about people, and my instincts say you would be great at this. I have a son, I blurted out. He is 9 months old. I would need reliable hours, and I might occasionally need to bring him to the office if childcare falls through. Sophia did not even blink. I have a friend who runs an excellent daycare. I will get you the information. As for bringing him occasionally, that is fine with me. I am building the kind of company I would want to work for, which means understanding that employees have lives outside of work. I felt tears prick my eyes. Why would you do this for me? You do not even know me. I told you, she said. I trust my instincts. So what do you say? When can I start? I gave my notice at the diner and the grocery store the next day. 2 weeks later, I started working for Sophia. The office was small, just Sophia, myself, and one other employee, a guy named Trevor who handled IT. But Sophia had big plans and the drive to make them happen. She was brilliant, visionary, and one of the hardest working people I had ever met. She was also one of the kindest. She treated me like a colleague, not just an employee. She asked for my input on decisions. She taught me about the business, about strategy, about how to navigate the corporate world. She saw potential in me that I did not see in myself. The daycare she recommended was perfect. It was clean, safe, staffed by people who genuinely loved children. Ethan thrived there. And for the first time since he was born, I had regular hours. I could plan my days. I could sleep at night. I could actually be present when I was with my son instead of being so exhausted I was just going through the motions. Over the next year, Sophia's company grew exponentially. We landed bigger clients, hired more staff, moved to a larger office. I was promoted from assistant to office manager, then to junior partner. Sophia made me take night classes toward finishing my bachelor's degree, even offering to pay my tuition. She believed in investing in her people, she said. She wanted to see me succeed. I was learning so much, growing so much. I was discovering that I was actually good at business. I had a mind for strategy, for seeing opportunities that others missed, for connecting with clients. For the first time in my life, I felt competent, capable, valuable. Ethan was 2 years old when I met Logan. He was a corporate attorney that Sophia brought in to help us with a complicated contract negotiation. He was 31, tall and handsome in that clean-cut professional way. But what I noticed first was how kind his eyes were and how patiently he explained legal jargon so I could understand it. After the meeting, he asked if I would like to grab coffee sometime. I hesitated. I had not dated anyone since Marcus. I was terrified of trusting someone again, of letting someone close enough to hurt me. Just coffee, he said gently. No pressure. I just think you are interesting and I would like to get to know you better. I said yes. Our first date was at a small coffee shop near the office. We talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Seattle, about going to law school, about his work. I told him about Ethan, about being a single mom, about working for Sophia. I did not tell him about my parents. That wound was still too raw. At the end of the date, he walked me to my car. I had a really great time, he said. Would you like to do this again? I would, I said. But I need you to know something. I have a son. He is my priority. Always. If that is a problem for you, I need to know now. Logan smiled. That is not a problem. That is actually one of the things I admire about you. You are a devoted mother. That is rare and beautiful. We started dating slowly. Logan was patient, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. When I introduced him to Ethan after 2 months, I was terrified. Ethan was shy at first, clinging to my leg. But Logan got down on his level and asked him about his favorite dinosaur. Within 10 minutes, Ethan was showing Logan all his toys and chattering away. I stood in the doorway watching them, and I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope that maybe I could have this. A partner. A real relationship. A future that was not just about surviving but about actually living. Logan never tried to replace Jackson in Ethan's life. He understood that Jackson was family, that he was Uncle Jack's and always would be. The three of us plus Sophia became our little chosen family. We had dinners together, celebrated holidays together, supported each other through challenges. It was everything I had always wanted and never known how to ask for. By the time Ethan was 3, I was a full partner at Sophia's company. We had rebranded and expanded. I was making 6 figures for the first time in my life. Logan and I moved in together into a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment with a yard where Ethan could play. I had a savings account. I had stability. I had a family I had chosen and who had chosen me back. I thought I had moved on from my past. I thought I had healed from the wounds my parents had inflicted. I was wrong. The first time I saw Catherine again was completely by accident. I was at a grocery store with Ethan, who was now 4 years old. We were in the produce section, Ethan sitting in the cart chattering about the apples he wanted. I was reaching for a bag when I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me, do you have any change to spare?" I turned around and my heart stopped. Catherine was standing there in clothes that looked like they had not been washed in days. Her hair was gray and tangled. She had aged 20 years in the 5 since I had last seen her. She was holding out a trembling hand. Our eyes met. I watched recognition dawn on her face. "Ellie," she whispered. "Oh my God, Ellie, is that you?" Every muscle in my body went rigid. I turned back to the apples and grabbed a bag, putting them in the cart. "Come on, Ethan. Let us go." "Ellie, wait," Catherine called out, following me. "Please, I need to talk to you." I walked faster, pushing the cart toward the checkout. Catherine kept pace, her voice getting louder, more desperate. "Ellie, please. Your father and I, we have nothing. We lost everything. Daniel does not talk to us anymore. We need your help. Please, I am begging you." I got to the checkout and started unloading my groceries. The cashier looked uncomfortable, clearly sensing the tension. Catherine grabbed my arm. I jerked away so violently that Ethan looked up at me with worried eyes. "Mommy, who is that lady?" "No one, sweetheart," I said, my voice shaking. "No one important." "I am your grandmother," Catherine said to Ethan, her voice breaking. "I am your grandmother, and I have made terrible mistakes." I turned to face her, then my eyes cold. "You are not his grandmother. He does not have grandparents on my side. They died a long time ago. Now please leave us alone or I will call security." Catherine's face crumpled. "Please, Ellie. I am sorry. We are sorry. We were wrong. We were so wrong. But we are desperate. We have nowhere else to turn." "You had nowhere to turn when you left me at that gas station," I said, quietly aware that people were staring. "You figured it out. I suggest you do the same." I paid for my groceries, loaded them into my cart, and walked away. Catherine did not follow. When I looked back from the parking lot, she was standing in the same spot, crying. I got Ethan into his car seat, loaded the groceries, and sat in the driver's seat with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I thought I would feel triumphant. I thought seeing her reduced to begging would give me satisfaction. Instead, I just felt empty. That night, I told Logan what happened. He held me while I cried, all the old pain resurfacing. "Do you want to help them?" he asked gently. "No," I said immediately. "Then less certainly, I do not know. They destroyed me. They left me to die. Why should I help them?" "You should not," he said. "You do not owe them anything. But I also know you, Ellie. You are not cruel. If this is eating at you, maybe we should find out what their situation actually is. You do not have to help them. But maybe having information will help you make a decision you can live with." He was right. I hired a private investigator just like I did before. Within a week, I had a thick folder detailing my parents' complete financial collapse. Thomas's company had gone bankrupt 5 years ago due to a combination of mismanagement and fraud. He had been skimming money from company accounts, cooking the books to hide losses. When it all came out, he was sued by investors, lost everything in the settlement, and narrowly avoided prison time. The stress had driven him to drink heavily. He now had cirrhosis of the liver and was in kidney failure. Catherine had tried to maintain their lifestyle even as their finances crumbled. She maxed out credit cards, took out loans against their house, borrowed money from friends and family that she never paid back. When the house was foreclosed on, she lost everything. All her society friends disappeared. The charities she had chaired wanted nothing to do with her. Daniel had moved to London for work 4 years ago. When Thomas and Catherine tried to borrow money from him, he cut off all contact. He was married now, had changed his phone number, and had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with his parents or their problems. Thomas was currently in County General Hospital, waiting to be transferred to a state-run nursing facility. He had been denied a spot on the transplant list due to his continued drinking and age. He was dying slowly and painfully, and there was nothing that could be done. Catherine was living in her car, occasionally staying at shelters. She had applied for every form of public assistance available but was caught in bureaucratic red tape. She had no job, no prospects, no hope. I read through all of this information over and over. I waited for the satisfaction to come, the sense of justice. They got what they deserved, I told myself. They made their choices and now they were living with the consequences. But I also kept thinking about Ethan. What if someday he made a mistake and I turned my back on him the way my parents had turned their backs on me? What if I became the very thing I hated? Sophia, Jackson, and Logan all said the same thing when I talked to them about it. Whatever you decide, we support you. But you do not owe them anything. I wrestled with the decision for weeks. Part of me wanted to let them rot. They had earned their fate. But another part of me, the part that looked at Ethan every day and was reminded of how much I loved him, wondered if I was capable of being that cold. Then I got a letter. It was delivered to my office, forwarded through some way that Catherine had tracked me down. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. Dear Ellie, it read. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know what we did to you was unforgivable. I have thought about that night at the gas station every single day for the past 5 years. I dream about it. I wake up seeing your face, seeing you on the ground, and I hate myself. Your father and I, we destroyed our lives through our own pride and cruelty. We destroyed our relationship with you and with Daniel. We destroyed everything good we ever had. I am not writing to ask for money or help. I know I do not deserve either. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry. I am so sorry. I was a terrible mother to you. I chose status and reputation over my own daughter. I chose my pride over your safety. And I will regret that, for the rest of my life, however long or short that may be. I know you have built a beautiful life. I have seen glimpses of it, and I am so proud of you, even though I have no right to be. You did that without us. You raised a beautiful child without any help. You became successful and strong and everything we said you would not be. You proved us wrong in every way, and I am glad. If I could go back and change everything, I would. I would choose you. I would help you. I would be the mother you deserved. But I cannot go back. All I can do is tell you that I am sorry and that I love you, even though I showed you the opposite. I hope you have a wonderful life, Ellie. You deserve every good thing. Love, Catherine. I read that letter 20 times. I cried over it. I raged against it. I wanted to burn it. I wanted to frame it. I did not know what to feel. That night I asked Logan a question. If I help them, does that make me weak? Does that mean they win? He thought about it for a long time before answering. I think it means you are choosing who you want to be, not who they made you. Your parents, they are small, petty people who let their pride destroy them. You have the chance to be bigger than that. To show more grace than they ever did. But only if you want to. Only if it would not destroy you to do it. I need to see them, I said. I need to look them in the eye one more time before I make any decisions. That is how Logan and I ended up at County General Hospital on a gray Tuesday in November, 5 years after that night at the gas station. I was dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my parents' monthly income. Logan was beside me, a briefcase in hand, looking every inch the successful attorney he was. We found Catherine first sitting in the hallway outside Thomas's room. She looked even worse than she had at the grocery store. When she saw me, she struggled to stand, her whole body shaking. Ellie, she breathed. You came. You actually came. I did not respond. I walked past her into Thomas's room. My father was barely recognizable. He was jaundiced, his skin a sickly yellow. He was hooked up to machines, tubes running in and out of his body. His eyes were closed, his breathing labored. He looked like he was already dying. When he heard footsteps, he opened his eyes. It took him a moment to focus on me. When he did, tears started rolling down his cheeks. Ellie, he croaked. My baby girl. You came. Something about hearing him call me that after everything made rage boil up inside me. I am not your baby girl. I have not been your anything for 5 years. I know, he whispered. I know. And I am so sorry. I am so sorry for everything. Catherine had followed us into the room. She stood in the corner, watching with desperate hope in her eyes. Logan stepped forward and placed his briefcase on the table beside Thomas's bed. He opened it and pulled out a folder. My name is Logan Matthews. I am Miss Vance's attorney and partner. We are here today to discuss the remaining assets in your names. What assets? Catherine asked bitterly. We have nothing. Everything is gone. Not quite everything, Logan said. According to public records, you still own a small life insurance policy, a savings bond that matured last year, and some stock certificates that were overlooked in the bankruptcy proceedings. Total value is approximately $47,000. Thomas looked confused. I did not know about any of that. You did not know about a lot of things, Logan said coolly, including the fact that your daughter has spent the past 5 years building a successful life without you. She is a partner at a multi-million-dollar consulting firm. She owns her own home. She is raising a beautiful, healthy child who wants for nothing. She did all of that despite your best efforts to destroy her. Why are you here? Catherine asked, her voice small. What do you want from us? I stepped forward then. You asked me for help. Multiple times. You said you were desperate, that you had nowhere else to turn, so I am here to give you an answer. The hope in Catherine's eyes was painful to see. Oh, Ellie. Thank you. Thank you so much. We promise we will make it up to you. We will be better. We will be the parents you deserved. I held up my hand to stop her. I am not finished. I am here to tell you that those assets, those last $47,000 you have left, they are being transferred into a trust fund for my son Ethan Marcus Vance. My attorney has already filed the paperwork. It is done. Catherine's face went white. What, you cannot do that. That is our money. Actually, Logan interjected, based on the specifics of the accounts and the fact that they were purchased during your marriage, Miss Vance has a legal claim as your biological child to contest their distribution. Given your current debts and the likelihood of future medical bills you cannot pay, the court would likely side with protecting those assets for your grandchild rather than leaving them to be consumed by creditors. But we need that money, Thomas gasped from the bed. I have medical bills. We have nowhere to live. I leaned in closer to his bed. Do you remember what you said to me the night you left me at that gas station? You said I made my bed and I had to lie in it. You said I chose my baby over my family and I had to deal with the consequences. So now I am saying the same to you. You made your bed. You destroyed your family, your business, your reputation, your health, all through your own choices. Now you get to lie in that bed and deal with the consequences. Catherine was crying now, not the pretty, delicate tears of a society woman, but deep, ugly sobs. Please, Ellie. We are dying. We have nothing. Have mercy. Mercy, I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. Did you have mercy when I was 9 months pregnant and begged you to take me to the hospital? Did you have mercy when my water broke and I collapsed on that filthy concrete? Did you have mercy when you drove away and left me there to die? We made a mistake, Thomas wheezed. We were wrong. But we are your parents. You cannot just abandon us like this. Watch me, I said. You told me I was not your daughter anymore. So as far as I am concerned, you are not my parents. You are just two strangers who happen to contribute DNA to my existence. And I do not owe strangers anything. Logan pulled out another set of papers. These are restraining orders. If either of you attempt to contact Miss Vance, her son, or any member of her family or professional circle, you will be arrested. Do you understand? You cannot do this, Catherine wailed. You are our daughter. You are all we have left. I turned to face her fully. I was all you had 5 years ago too, and you threw me away like garbage. So now you know exactly how that feels. Welcome to the consequences of your own actions. I walked toward the door, Logan following. Catherine grabbed at my arm and I yanked it away. Ethan, she gasped. Please let me meet my grandson. Let me at least see him once. I promise I would not hurt him. I just want to see him. I looked at her with all the coldness I could muster. My son does not have grandparents on my side. As far as he knows, they died before he was born. And you know what? He is better off believing that than ever, knowing that his grandparents were the kind of people who would abandon their daughter and unborn grandson to die on a gas station floor. But I love you, Catherine sobbed. I love you, Ellie. I am sorry. Please do not do this. Please. You do not love me, I said quietly. You love the idea of me rescuing you from the mess you created. There is a difference. And even if you did love me, it is too late. You do not get to throw someone away and then pick them back up when it is convenient for you. That is not how love works. Logan and I left then. Catherine's sobs echoed down the hallway. Thomas was calling my name, his voice weak and desperate. I did not look back. In the elevator, Logan put his arm around me. How do you feel? I waited for the satisfaction to come. I had done it. I had faced them. I had shown them exactly how little power they had over me now. I had taken the last thing they had and given it to my son. I had my revenge. But I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel victorious. I just felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of their rejection. tired of the anger that had fueled me for so long. Just tired. I feel like I can finally let go, I whispered. Thomas died 6 weeks later. It was December 23rd. The nursing home called to inform me as I was still listed as his next of kin. They asked if I wanted to claim the body and arrange for burial. I told them no. I told them to contact the county for whatever they did with unclaimed remains. I did not go to his funeral, which was held at a county facility with only Catherine and a chaplain present. Daniel did not come back from London. As far as I know, I was never even notified of when or where it happened. Catherine tried to contest the trust fund. She hired a public defender and filed a lawsuit claiming I had coerced my father on his deathbed. It went nowhere. Logan had documented everything meticulously. The case was dismissed. After that, Catherine seemed to disappear. I heard through some grapevine that she had moved to another state, maybe Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere warm where homelessness was slightly more survivable. I did not investigate further. I did not want to know. The years that followed were the best years of my life. Logan and I got married when Ethan was 6. It was a small ceremony with just our chosen family, Sophia Jackson and his partner Marcus, whom he had met through work. Ethan was our ring bearer and took his job very seriously, walking down the aisle with such concentration that everyone laughed. We bought a house with a big yard. Ethan had his own room painted his favorite color blue, filled with toys and books. Logan adopted him officially, and Ethan started calling him Dad. Jackson was Uncle Jack's present for every birthday, every holiday, every important moment. When Ethan was 7, we had a daughter, Riley Catherine. I gave her Catherine as a middle name, not to honor my mother but to reclaim it, to make that name mean something good and loving instead of cold and cruel. Sophia's company continued to grow. We opened offices in 3 more cities. I traveled for work sometimes, but Logan and I made sure one of us was always home with the kids. We had family dinners every night. We went to Ethan's soccer games and Riley's dance recitals. We were the family I had always dreamed of but never thought I would have. Jackson met someone wonderful, a teacher named Marcus, who was patient and kind and loved Jackson fiercely. They got married when Ethan was 8, and our kids were flower children at the ceremony. Our families were so intertwined by then that it was hard to remember a time when we had not all been together. Ethan grew into a remarkable young man. He was kind, empathetic, smart. He knew the basics of my story simplified for his understanding. He knew his biological father had not been in the picture, and that his grandparents on my side had not been good people. He knew that Logan was not his biological father but was his dad in every way that mattered. He knew that family was not about blood but about love and choice. One day when he was 10, he asked me about my parents. We were in the kitchen making dinner together, just the 2 of us. "Mom, did your parents really leave you at a gas station when you were in labor with me?" I put down the knife I was using to chop vegetables. "Yes, they did." He was quiet for a moment, processing. "Why would they do that?" "I do not know, sweetheart. I think they were scared. I think they cared more about what other people thought of them than they cared about their own daughter." "Some people are like that. That is really sad," he said. "Not just for you, but for them too. They missed out on knowing you and knowing me, and we are pretty great." I smiled through sudden tears. "Yes, we are." "Do you ever wish they had been different?" he asked. "All the time," I admitted. I spent years wishing I could change them, make them love me the way I needed to be loved. But I finally realized I could not change them. I could only choose how I responded to their choices. And I chose to build a different kind of family, the kind where people show up for each other, and love is not conditional. He hugged me then, his gangly 10-year-old arms wrapping around my waist. "I am glad you chose that," he said. "I am glad you chose me." "I will always choose you," I whispered into his hair. "Always." By the time Ethan was 12 and Riley was 5, I had fully processed what had happened with my parents. I had gone to therapy, worked through the trauma, learned how to set boundaries and recognize my worth. I had forgiven myself for all the times I had believed their lies about me, for all the years I had spent trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. I never regretted what I did. Taking that money, ensuring they faced the consequences of their actions, refusing to rescue them from their own mess. It was not about revenge, not really. It was about refusing to teach my son that it was okay to accept cruelty from people just because they share your DNA. I learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I forgave my parents in the sense that I stopped letting their actions control my life. I stopped carrying the anger and pain everywhere I went, but I did not reconcile with them. I did not let them back into my life. Because forgiveness is for you, but reconciliation requires the other person to change, and they never did. I learned that you can love someone and still protect yourself from them. That setting boundaries is not cruel, it is necessary. that saying no to people who harm you is not selfish, it is self-preservation. Most importantly, I learned that the family you choose can be just as real, just as powerful, just as permanent as the family you are born into, sometimes more so. So now here I am at 33 years old with a life that 17-year-old Ellie could never have imagined. I have a husband who loves me and shows up for me every single day. I have 2 healthy, happy children who never doubt that they are loved. I have a best friend in Sophia who believed in me when I did not believe in myself. I have Jackson, who saved my life in more ways than one, and who remains my brother in all the ways that matter. I have a successful career. I have financial security. I have a home filled with laughter and warmth. I have everything I spent my childhood desperately wanting and never receiving. And I built it all myself from the ashes of that gas station floor, from the ruins of the family that rejected me. I built it with people who chose to love me, who chose to show up, who chose to stay. That is what I want you to understand. That is the real story. Not the revenge, not the satisfaction of seeing my parents face consequences. The real story is that I survived. I survived, and then I did more than survive. I thrived. I created a life so full of love and joy that the absence of my biological parents became irrelevant. So to anyone out there who has been abandoned, betrayed, or told they are not good enough, I want you to know something. You are not defined by the people who failed to see your worth. You are defined by how you rise after they knock you down. And trust me, rising is the best revenge. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members? How did you find the strength to do it? What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss future stories. Your support means the world to me, and I cannot wait to hear your perspectives. Thank you for listening to my story.